Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining Journey Enhancement YouTube channel. Once again, I'm Ethan Merriweather with Rich Weehee. This is episode 3, and we are doing a continuation of the 20 keys for effective relationship building and communication. In episode 2, we covered self-awareness, preconceived conclusions, boundary-free thinking, and confrontation. And we are going to continue to the next one, which is number 5, acute awareness of others. Rich, would you want to talk about that a little bit?
All of these keys, as you know, Ethan, are important in terms of the way that we can communicate with people. And one of the things I don't know that we talked about this at our last episode, but I wanted to explain how the keys came about, okay? When we do the DISC model of human behavior, it's strictly a process that tells us how we're wired from a personality perspective. And when I got done doing a number of trainings in that area, I realized that, okay, once you understand the DISC model of human behaviors, what are some of the attributes that are important for us to master to continue to develop ourselves in an interpersonal perspective? And that's when I came up with the 20 keys. So all of these keys, to me, complement and extend our capability once we really understand ourselves and others. And we're on an acute awareness of others today. And when we talk about an acute awareness of people, one of the things that I think about is when I'm with someone else or even meeting somebody else, I make it a conscious effort to be as observant as possible. I raise my listening skills, hoping that I'm going to make discoveries about a person that's going to cause them to recognize there's something about my awareness of them that's different than most other people that they encounter. And I don't do it for, to try to prove myself to anybody. What I found is that taking a genuine interest in other people requires a very strong level of your own awareness.
How hard is it for you to remove your preconceived ideas prior to that awareness?
That's a really good question, and it depends on the person, actually. Okay, it's really, we have a tendency, I believe, that when we meet people that are very much like us, we have a tendency to feel a more relaxed state of our own. It's when we encounter people that have differences from us that it causes us to try to figure out, what do I do next? How do I want to be with that? So the key is, number one, you said, how do I put myself in a mental state so I don't allow any prejudgment to get in the way of understanding them? So number one, you got to be thinking about it. Okay, so awareness is huge. Okay, so I need to be aware of myself as well as being aware of them. Because the key is, what I want to do is I don't want to create boundaries that are going to get in the way of us able to understand one another. So it takes a lot of, I would say, a lot of thought discipline to do that.
I was just thinking about the discipline aspect because one of the things that we talked about last week was the confrontation. So having that acute awareness of others, I think that there's a couple of triggers that happen with acute awareness. The triggers would be, okay, do I need to be confrontational? The boundary-free thinking, is it a checklist that you go? That's kind of what I'm saying is
yes.
When you think about acute awareness, is there a checklist that we need to put on the forefront of our mind when interacting with others that may, think differently?
Yes. Actually, it's funny. As you were talking about, I was realizing when I'm aware of someone else, what am I looking for? Yeah. And here are some of the things that anyone notices almost immediately. The first thing that I notice is whether or not I'm getting eye-to-eye contact with somebody. And not every, some people are could naturally look you in the eye and feel very comfortable with it, and other people are more shy, so they struggle with it. I look for whether or not they're comfortable giving me eye-to-eye contact. I look at their body language. You know, I look at basically, sometimes I'll notice what they're wearing, how they're dressed. There may be something that they're wearing that I could identify to provoke a conversation. For example, if I notice, this happened it's funny, I was walking at Great Lakes Crossing, and this is really interesting because this really happened. So I'm walking, and I'm walking up upon another person who is in front of me and slightly to my left. Mm-hmm. It was a guy. He had an absolutely beautiful jacket on.
Okay.
And it was kind of like of a native Indian design. And I really, really liked it. So what I did, I went up to him, and this is just minor, but it's an example of being aware of other people. I looked at him and I said, by the way, I said, I love your jacket. I said, it's absolutely beautiful. And he said, thank you. And I just kept walking. But what was I doing? I was being aware. Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, when I'm in the mall and I walk, and one of the things I notice is I look at the people that are in the mall. And what I have found recently is that when I walk, I try to get eye-to-eye contact from others. I like to see who's looking at me and whatnot. I'm noticing that when most people are out in the mall that I've noticed, they're going someplace, they're focused on getting there. They don't seem to look around at a lot of other people. Mm-hmm. When they're with someone else, they interact with who they're with. Mm-hmm. But I notice that for the most part, rarely do people give me eye-to-eye contact intuitively.
Interesting.
And yet with me, because I'm maybe a little bit more interested in noticing people, I'm trying to see who's going to look at me.
Yes,
who can I smile at? Who's going to smile back? So, and that's part of the awareness that I use. It's necessary to be aware of how other people are in order to engage with them.
It's interesting that you said necessary. Thinking about animals.
Yes.
Right? So when you see a dog coming down the street, or a owner is with a dog, there is an acute awareness that you have to have immediately and naturally.
Yes.
You just don't approach a dog and you start patting it. There is a acute awareness and a respect that a human would have against the dog, even if the human is afraid or scared or cautious. If a human is very cautious of animals, there's an acute awareness naturally of that animal. I think we should approach humans in that regard as the same type of way. Not saying that we look at humans as animals, not like that.
Yes.
But there's an acute awareness naturally when we see an animal in our presence.
Well, that also extends to, it made me think about when I'm out and about and I see people with young children.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, now I had an episode recently where I was noticing a young mother had a child on her lap, and the child had to be less than 2 years old.
Okay.
Maybe he was a year old, and he had a pencil in his hand. Mm. And I was too far away to do anything about it, but I was watching the child behave with this pencil, and it had a sharp point, and he was moving it around, and his mother was attentive to the child, but a young mother, and I'm thinking, I hope she realizes that that child could injure himself with that sharp pencil. Mm-hmm. But I picked that up immediately. And what we do when we say acute awareness of others, mm-hmm. Think about when you're driving a car and you see people, on a crosswalk. Mm-hmm. You become aware of what are they doing, what are they going to do next. So that awareness is ongoing with us, and how acute we want to make it is determined pretty much by how important it is for us.
Yes, I love that. I would have never thought acute awareness would be such a long discussion.
There's a lot to it.
Yeah, because if you really think about the natural aspect of acute awareness, we do it all the time, and we don't necessarily coin the phrase acute awareness of others.
Our awareness becomes acute when something important to us is in the environment.
Wow.
Okay, now the thing that, one of the things to talk about or to even at least mention is how observant do you want to be? You know, you have to take a personal look at what is the personal benefit to you about being aware of what's around you. And again, it's different for everybody. Some people, you know, are in a very, you know, we're all in different states of mind from time to time. And one of the things that I've noticed in the mall especially, I noticed that once somebody recognizes the store they want to go to, all of a sudden their focus is going to the entrance. And they don't always see those people that are around them. And sometimes they could be inadvertently rude because they're just thinking about where they're headed for and not aware of all the other circumstances that they could be affecting.
Can acute awareness be regulated?
Absolutely.
But
well, you know, you say, can it be regulated? All of our behavior is regulated, all of it. You know, now how much you want to regulate it depends on how important, you know, all the things we're talking about really are.
You
know, I happen to write down 20 things that I think come relatively intuitive to me that are a part of communication and relationship building.
Okay.
And each one of these keys is more or less important to people based on their priorities of these keys. You know, surely we regulate them. There are times when I really don't want to be bothered with anything or anybody else, and I get into that frame where I'm going to try to avoid allowing things into my observation path because I'm in deep thought about something. You know, a good example of that is when I'm putting this work together. Diana is a tremendous help for me.
Gotcha.
She does a lot of editing. And if I'm in the middle of working on something where I'm expressing a thought and writing it down, and Diana interrupts me, I have to say that I have to really work hard on not being rude.
Gotcha.
Because what I don't want to do is I don't want to give her the attention she needs because I think the attention I need in what I'm doing is far more important. And that's a situation where, you know, we know each other very well. It's been like 44 years of a happy marriage. So we really understand one another. But with people that are just starting to appreciate a new relationship, tolerating some of these indifferences can be very frustrating. And if we create an awareness of some of the keys we're talking about, it could enhance their ability to truly get along with one another.
And I think the regulation is externally, not internally. That's what I'm talking. So if you have, there's a lot of systems today that's going on, you know, ESG and different things like that. There's a lot of regulations out there about it that's been mandated by governments and different things like that.
Oh, yes.
In environmental, social, and governance, right?
Yes.
So those regulations, and when you talk about acute awareness, when
gracious.
can it become a detriment instead of a benefit? That's kind of where I'm going with that.
Well, you know, that's, you've heard me say in the past, anything good that's used to an extreme can become a detriment. And I think you have to kind of take that principle and apply it to all the 20 keys that I'm talking about. If I'm going to be legalistic, and let's say that you and I are driving together. You're driving and I'm in the passenger seat. We come to a stop sign and you almost stop. Everything's safe. Nobody's been endangered. You cruise through this. Now, that's not a big deal. And typically, I wouldn't say anything because, you know, I was confident that we were okay. But there are people that'll say, excuse me, you didn't make a full stop. Okay, so now when that happens, do I really want to sit next to you in a car if this is the way you're going to behave? If you're going to be pinpointing every little thing and making an issue out of it. So again, this is where acute awareness is important. Because if I'm with somebody that happens to be that way, I have to respect that. Okay, doesn't mean that I have to approve of it, but I'll respect it. And all of a sudden, I'm thinking that, well, if this is really important to you, then I'm going to be on guard so that I do things that cause you to be comfortable under your rules. And that's part of being acutely aware.
I think that was a phenomenal answer, and that's kind of what I was looking for. Because I think that in life we've been bombarded by other people's concerns.
Yes.
And they want their concerns to be our concerns as well, which we have to be very careful of.
I think a good question to ask is, when do we become acutely aware?
Nice.
The answer to that question is when we need to. That's it. There are times when it doesn't matter. We could be in a very relaxed state. But look, let's take, for example, when I was in the Army and I'm, in Vietnam out on patrol. You can't imagine what the awareness of the troops was. I mean, we were focused on the leaves moving, okay? But yet when we were back at base camp and everybody was relaxed, it was great. We weren't paying attention to anything but our own emotion and having fun. So acute awareness becomes necessary when the environment requires your level of awareness to change.
That's excellent. Excellent. And I have to keep that. That question actually goes along with the terminology. That can be another subject in itself. When
absolutely
should acute awareness be executed?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, if you notice, the very first key we talked about was self-awareness.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So, and this now we're talking about the awareness of other people, to be aware of them. And in my opinion, okay, our awareness has so much to do with the people we are in everything we do. When you think about what you choose to do, the thoughts that you decide to think about, your state of mind, all of that has to do with the awareness that we impose upon ourselves.
Yes, yes.
When you think about your behavior or anybody's behavior, I think about, and I do this very, very deliberately, the way that I come across to other people is critical to me. It's just, I think about it a lot.
Okay.
I think about my vocabulary, my body language, all of that stuff. And the level in which those things drive my behavior is generally based on what I want you, how I want you to understand me. So, and I think we all have that same, we all have an awareness within us. The question is, when we want to make changes in our behavior or character, our awareness level will go up in different areas so that we can apply the changes that we're actually wanting to make. For example, vocabulary is a good one. Okay. One of the things that I'm not very proud of is that if I am working on something and I lose my patience, my vocabulary will slip. And I don't like that. My wife doesn't like it. She finds me money when I screw up. Okay? No, but the point is, if I want to change that, I have to create an awareness that will allow me or that will force me to make the changes that I want to make. Awareness is a lot. You played basketball.
Oh, yeah.
Think of what your awareness had to be on the basketball court.
All the time.
You weren't thinking about the people in the stands.
No.
I mean, you might have been, but chances are, you were thinking about a lot of things that are relative to your environment on that basketball court.
Very good example.
Yeah.
I really think this subject is, this topic is larger than...
There's a lot to it.
Yeah.
There's a lot to it, and to dissect it the way we are, I think, is pretty interesting. I never thought about it in the context of having this kind of conversation.
Understood.
I think about these 20 keys, and since I basically put them together, I think about them all working together in the context of increasing our ability to interact with one another.
Yeah, and what's beautiful about this whole construct is you and I never sat down and talked about these 20 keys.
No, this is without rehearse.
This is without rehearse. This is unscripted.
Yeah, I have no idea what you're going to ask me when we get together, which I think is good because it's just whatever is intuitive to me happens to be the things that are working well for me. Yeah. And if it isn't intuitive to me, there's an opportunity for me to learn. So,
because I was thinking about the going further as acute awareness, I've been thinking more about these 20 keys, especially this acute awareness of others is very important. And I think that when you utilize and operate this one specifically, it's a service. It's a service not only to yourself, but it's a service to others. And one of the ideas or the functionalities in my mind of this acute awareness is not only being a service to others, but it's a way of humbling yourself to really understand how someone else is thinking or someone else is understanding.
Very true. As a matter of fact, what we should have done that I didn't do is, in my book, I actually have a brief definition of all these terms, and the definitions did not come out of the dictionary. Okay. The way that I defined acute awareness of others is understanding another the way they want to be understood. That to me is if I could provide a interaction between you and me that allows you to be the way that you want to be with me, I think that my awareness of you is working very well. That's the purpose of it.
And one thing, traditionally speaking, I grew up in an environment in a church where what has been said goes, right? As
Yeah.
And at times this acute awareness of others was not really applied, And I think that as you get older and the more you are benefited with more words and terminologies and definition and meaning, you could look at this acute awareness and the 20 keys and many, many other words, and you can truly break it down, and the words itself can be a service to yourself as an operation toward others and be a benefit to others.
Well, you said something that provoked another thought of mine, and that is the church environment and being aware of others. Now, there's another part of awareness that I think is very beneficial, especially for little children. We have a tendency to observe the way that everyone around us is behaving. Now, we recognize when someone's behavior isn't comfortable for us and it's out of line. Okay, that's one aspect of being aware. The other awareness is when you recognize someone whose behavior or appearance is admirable, and we want to have that become a part of who we are. When I think about it, in high school, I had certain teachers that I thought were good role models, and I would try to model some of their behavior in the character that I was developing. There were also students that were modeling behavior that I didn't want to have anything to do with. So in that case, what we become aware of influences what goes into who we are or who we are becoming.
Interesting.
It's modeling.
I love it. The modeling.
Yeah.
And that's one of the phrases and terminologies I use all the time is, what are we becoming with the information that's received?
Oh, yes, indeed.
I think that's very important.
Yes.
So that was acute awareness of others.
Right.
We can talk about that.